Welcome back to another unfiltered, unedited, uncensored, and commercial-free Sharks podcast that is the Pucknologists here on Teal Town, USA. Hope you enjoyed our boys Landy and Ian talking up After Dark earlier, but now it's time for episode 143 as we get into the Sharks finishing up a 5-game road trip earlier today in Columbus with a 6-4 loss. Sharks went 2-2 over 4 games this week. We're going to get into those, plus Noah Gregor standing out, Tomas Hertl getting frustrated, the Evander Kane press conference, and more. But first, as always, do us a favor. Remember to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on social media. If you'd like to help support the content we deliver, you can use the Super Chat option during live shows, but we do prefer that Venmo option, and you can find us on there at Teal Town, USA. We thank you for that support, and if you are not watching live on YouTube, make sure to add your take in the comments section below this video. So, let's go here. It was a tough way to end the road trip. I'll just say that. Jerk, how you doing?
Well, I just saw the T-shirt, so I'm doing a little bit better.
Yeah, see you rocking those saltines, baby.
Yeah, no, it's we're doing good. I mean, kind of a, tonight was kind of a boot to the groin, but if you look at the road trip as a whole, considering how a lot of people feel about this team, I'm not too upset.
All right, I'm a scotch upset. I feel like points were left on the board during this trip.
Oh, for sure, but I'm talking about like big picture.
Big picture, okay. We're huge picture.
It's huge.
It's huge. So let's go through 25 games this season. Currently, the Sharks are 13-11-1. Currently 27 points, 4th in the Pacific. 3-2 over their last 5, 5-5 in their last 10. But 27 points in 25 games. That's just over 500 hockey, people. My predictions after going perfect the previous 2 weeks. Oh, it was a bad week for me, man. 1 for 4. I missed on everything but New Jersey. Still had them going
How
3
dare
and
you.
I
How
know.
dare you.
But I had them going 3-1 this week. But through 25 though, I had them going 14-11. And last I looked, 13-11-1. That's damn close. And somehow more optimistic than their record. I'm not even sure how that happened. So look, hey, Taco Cruiser just jumping in right off the hop with the Super Chat donation. We thank you very much for that. Trade Hertl while his value is still high.
I mean, we were kind of talking about that last year, but even now, I mean, I just don't know. Like, even if, like, say we get to the trade deadline, say the Sharks are in 7th place, that is a brutal spot for Doug Wilson to be because, if, say the Sharks are in 7th place, which is technically a playoff spot, well, Doug Wilson says, we're not where we want to be, trade him. You're basically saying, yeah, even though we're in the playoff spot, we plan on not making it. But then the flip side, say he looks at it and says, oh, we're in a playoff spot, we're going to keep him. And then the Sharks have a brutal end of the year and they finish in 9th. And then Hertl walks away for nothing. So, I think unless the Sharks playoff chances are over 70% by the trade deadline, you got to move Hertl. There's no, we're in the 8th seed, we're still in the hunt. I don't think the Sharks can afford to think like that.
Yeah, and how many times have we seen the Sharks at one point, come out of a point in the end of January? I have a very specific recollection because Doug Wilson kept belaboring the point where it was like, well, we had that run where we beat Chicago and LA and Anaheim, which
was so stupid. But, congratulations, you won 3 games out of 82 playing the parade.
But it was, we felt like we were on a good trajectory when we'd beaten 3 really good teams, and then
they went winless in February.
Yeah, so
I remember.
Yeah, so exactly, it's like, boy, when that deadline comes upon you, sometimes guys take their foot off the gas and be, okay, I'm safe, I can chill. You never know how that is going to shake out.
Well, and even you look at other moments in time. I think back to 2017 where the Sharks, that was the year after the Sharks had gone to the Stanley Cup final, obviously, and it looked like they were going to make the playoffs pretty comfortably, which obviously, as we know, they did make the playoffs that year pretty comfortably. But, they go, at the trade deadline, they pick up Evander Kane, which, say what you want about the player, but the point is they're spending assets to beef the squad up, right?
Well,
and so you're thinking, oh,
got
okay,
Goldobin the hell out, but
yeah, we're in business here. Sharks went to the final last year. They're pretty comfortably in first this year. It's all good. And then the Sharks, in their last 20 games of the season, they were 9-11 to finish that year, and tumbled all the way down, and ended up having to face a hot Edmonton team. So, things can change at the drop of a hat, as they say.
If you will.
Yeah.
Everybody drink. So the week started off with a very nice game in New Jersey. I mean, the road trip started off great. I mean, you shut the door on Chicago, you go into New Jersey, throw up 5. Reimer would get the start. You got Peterson coming in where Weatherby would actually sit out, and Bugner even said, like, hey, he's been okay, but we think it would be beneficial to watch from the press box for a game or two. And he said he had Mike Ricci in his ear most of these games, pointing out things, and that can only help things. It's nice to get a reset, get away from the game for a hot minute, just to see it from it's not the 30,000 foot view, but you understand what I'm saying. Cogliano would actually take PTO on this to deal with some, I'm just going to say family stuff. I don't want to, they talked about it on the broadcast. I don't want to get into it because it's not hockey. his family stuff, all that, for me, that's off limits. Gregor, given the chance in this game, and he crashes, buries a shimmick shot to give the Sharks a 1-0 lead. Last time I looked, it's a high value goal.
You are correct, sir.
Burns took a puck to the face late in the first. The good news, of course, being that he doesn't have any teeth to knock out because they're already gone. But Karlsson and Ferraro would start the second, but Burns would return after a couple minutes. Fun one in this, of course, being that Middleton would get his second NHL goal, his first on a manned net. This is key. Meier with his 10th goal, this one coming on the power play, felt like the only power play they scored this week. And then EK65 would score what would be a low-value goal. But he did have some high this week.
Still counts on the score sheet.
That's right. Meier gets an empty netter. Anyway, storyline.
It all mows your lawn the same way. But...
That's right. Gregor's best game in teal. Timo's on fire, and you get 4 points from the defense in this one. Gotta love it.
I saw a lot of people saying, people on Twitter saying, oh, where's this Noah Gregor been? And it's like, he's always been there. You just didn't want to look. I feel like, and you obviously know, I mean,
who?
Especially during the regular season, we probably talk every day, but even in the off season, every day, every other day, every couple days, I'm very big on Noah Gregor. I feel like a lot of people owe me an apology.
Get in line. Get in line. Hey, Berg, coming in hot on the super chat. Thank you very much for the donation. And throwing us $5 for the inevitable discussion about Evander Kane. Oh, it's coming, my friend. It's coming.
There's a follow-up to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get in on that. Is it known what team efforts were there to discipline EK9 last year when he was showing up late, etc.? I can't find any mention of any articles written about the subject other than February 2020 when he was held out of the third period of a game against the Rangers. Yeah, that was pretty much all he got.
Yeah, and they're like, Kevin Kurz has reported on it. Shang has obviously reported on it. But, the talk on him is, he was late to practice. He didn't really care about team rules. Allegedly, he and Rocky Thompson almost got into a rumble. So stuff like that. But in terms of ways he was reprimanded for it, by all public accounts, no, there was nothing.
Yeah, well, and in fact, Bugner, if you remember correctly, at the end of the season when they did kind of like their exit interviews, even Bugner kind of intimated that all guys should have been held to the same standard, and he felt like that was not the case. I think it was trying to beat around the bush, if you will. But we'll get to Evander Kane shortly. We need to finish out the week that was in games. The New York Islanders. You gotta feel for this team. I mean, holy crap! Coming into this season, they were like a lot of people were very high on this team, and
I was one of those people. I thought they were going to win the Metro.
See, so the Sharks go
Idiot.
Sharks go in and take a 2-1 overtime win. Hill would get the start, his first since November 20th versus the Capitals, where the Sharks got shut out 4-0. The Isles come into this one on an 8-game skid. They are winless at UBS, which I said must stand for until Barzal scores. But Barzal would score a minute 4 into this one on one that Hill absolutely needed to have. But luckily, the boys settled in and was lights out for the rest of the game. Notes from this one, Gadjevic would take a shot off the ankle at about 3 minutes in. Has been in a walking boot ever since. We saw Peterson slot in for him after in the following games. Bonino would tie this one, his third goal in 5 games as the power play expired. So technically not a power play goal, but it was literally 1 second after it expired. And then you see Timo to EK65 for the OT winner. The storyline for me on this one is it took going to overtime for you to beat the second worst team in the East who has yet to win a game at home.
So, based on the numbers, what you've said is correct. I don't look at it the same way. The reason being is in terms of the player personnel, the Islanders are a much better team than second worst in the league, and they are notoriously very stout defensively. I mean, that comes from playing under that Lou Lamoriello style. He obviously signs players and hires coaches to kind of fit that mold. But I do agree with you. I mean, obviously, like you said, 8-game losing streak at the time. They've lost tonight, which means their losing streak is now at 11 games. And I mean, I'm happy with a win, don't get me wrong, but a team that is playing as poorly as you mentioned, AJ, I would like to see a more decisive win personally. Mm-hmm. But I mean, after it's all said and done, it's a win. So I'm kind of happy about that. You sort of, you take your 2 points and you're out the door.
Give me my slice. I got to go.
Yep, exactly.
So the Sharks roll over to the other aisle of Manhattan and find themselves on the wrong end of a 1-0 loss. Hill would start this one despite the fact that Reimer was actually scheduled to, but James was under the weather. Here's another one where Šimik would be scratched, this time for Milosh. This is the third scratch for Šimik in 10 games. The Rangers come in rested. They had only played 2 nights before, and then their previous game scheduled 3 nights before that was against the Islanders, which was postponed. So Rangers were very rested. New York scores on a power play after Gregor is pushed into Shesterkin and gets a goalie interference call. Broadcasters were a little, shall we say, froggy about that?
They were sure to let you know how they felt.
Yeah. 5 minutes into the third, though, Shesterkin pulled his groin, goes out. Last I looked, is out for at least a week.
Yep, that is correct.
Could be more.
Week minimum.
Yeah, there you go. So, look, as much as I belabored, the whole thing of, look, you had to go to overtime to beat second worst team. And, it's like, hey, you know what? You lost 1-0 to a really good Rangers team that had been going really hot. So, I can take a little bit of a moral victory from this. The storyline being that, look, you got goalied and you couldn't find offense. You couldn't solve Shesterkin. The other thing, though, is, Hertl previously stated, we can't be a one-line team. And through 24 games, the Sharks have scored 62 goals. 25 have come from that top line, which means 40% of them are coming from that top line. The Hertl line, 13, which is good for 21%. The defense has so far posted 18%. And so for the giggles, I was like, well, let's compare that to the top 3 teams in every division. And yeah, 40% of your offense coming from one line. There's only two other teams that match that. The Capitals, who are doing pretty well last I looked, and the Dallas Stars, who are currently streaking, last I looked, on a 6-game winning streak. So, so it can be done, I guess, if you have Ovechkin.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of the Capitals, like you mentioned, that Kuznetsov line. I mean, you look at it, right? It's Kuznetsov, Tom Wilson, and Alex Ovechkin, which has been the top line since they won the Stanley Cup in 2018. Very good line, and as you said, Alex Ovechkin, everything he touches is going in right now. And for the Dallas Stars too, it was a very slow start for your pal Joe Pavelski, but he's obviously turned it around as well. I think it helps that his center is Rope Hintz, who I think is a really good player, and same thing as an Alex Ovechkin. Right now, everything that Rope Hintz touches is going in, so certainly helps the case.
Yeah, so it's been pretty interesting. But last time I looked, the Tampa Bay Lightning, pretty good team, and yet their top line, 22% of their goals are coming from the top line, 26 coming from the second line.
It's because Tampa Bay is just good,
yeah,
right? I mean,
that's what happens when you're stacked.
And that's the thing is, like, even without, like, obviously they don't have Kucherov right now, they don't have Braden Point, but they're in a position where when everything is roses, you have Cirelli and Stamkos and Killorn as your second line, which is an awesome second line, but obviously no Point. So Stamkos, being that he's also pretty well versed in playing center, Stamkos can jump up, be the number one center with Andre Palat, and it's working out. Stamkos is like having one of his best years in a long time. So to that point, it's amazing how well you can play when you're not hurt.
Yeah. Well, the embarrassment of riches at center. Well,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like Steven Stamkos is so good, right? And like you have to play him at right wing because your other centers are just as good.
Yeah. But then you look at a team like Edmonton. McDavid's line is 37%, Draisaitl's is 35%. I mean, talk about balance.
Oh, for sure.
And then the Leafs. Matthews' line, 34%, Tavares' line, 34%.
There's definitely some good teams out there, that's for sure.
Now, the outlier, or as Jerk would tell you, there's always a hero.
Mm-hmm.
The Anaheim Ducks, their top line, 9% of their offense coming from there, 24% from the second Raquel line, and then Steele's third line is 30%.
Well, and those numbers might be a little bit inflated because, or maybe not inflated, but a little misconstrued, if you will, because when Troy Terry was on that point streak of 16 games. Ryan Getzlaf was picking up a lot of assists, and Getzlaf is hurt right now, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would say, and I mean, obviously I don't want to get too off track here, but it made me think of it. I think
too late.
Yeah, no, I think it's not some big secret. Like there's a handful of guys on Anaheim I really like, but when it's all said and done, I think Anaheim is going to be the team that comes back down to earth, and the Sharks need to have their seatbelt on and be ready when that happens.
That would be nice. Finally, the Sharks go to Columbus. Yikes. Hill gets his third straight start, and after the previous two, you have to be feeling good, right? What did he have? Like a 1 goals against average over those first two games? I mean, and again, Columbus is kind of struggling. Weren't they like in a 4-game losing streak or whatever? They played in Washington the night before and lost.
Yeah, Columbus, they're one of those teams, especially in the Eastern Conference right now. There's a lot of teams that are just sort of, I don't know, just sort of hanging around, right? Like everybody's saying like, Pittsburgh's looked really good this year. Boston's looked really good. Columbus has looked good at times. And you look, all three of those teams, two of those teams, Columbus and Boston, currently not in the playoffs right now. Like you have a lot of teams who are just sort of sniffing around it all. And I mean, I don't know. This would be like total team chaos nonsense, right? But like the way the standings are trending right now, like I think this would have been the year to see a 2014 playoff, if you ask me, because especially in the Eastern Conference and maybe even the Western Conference. Like you look in the East, Boston, Columbus, maybe Pittsburgh. You look in the West, Vegas, Winnipeg, Dallas. Like, some good teams are going to miss the playoffs.
Team chaos, baby.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I think everybody should make the playoffs.
Absolutely, why not? 24-game team buy-in. Shimmick would return after being healthy scratched. Cogliano returned after tending to family issues. Of note, the Sharks have slandered Rudolph's Balsers. He gets scratched. Okay. He gets scratched. Gregor takes his spot on the Hertl line. Of note, this was game 1105 for Vlasic, which moved him into second place on the team's all-time games played list, passing Joe Thornton. And the other, again, it's like recipe for success. Columbus, 4-game losing streak, played in Washington the night before. And Merzlikins,
yes,
I don't know who the hell Merzlikins is, but Merzlikins was 0-2-0 versus the Sharks. These are all good things. Recipe for success. Well, guess what? The Jackets open scoring. Boquist goes top shelf. Bonino would tie things, though, with 2 seconds left. And I think both Jerk and myself looked at that Boquist goal and went, yikes.
Yeah.
That's something you got to have.
Definitely a few that Hill probably would like a do-over on.
Yeah, that seemed to be the theme of the game tonight. But Bonino's 4th in 7 games. You got EK65 firing a bomb 21 seconds into the second period, and you're thinking, okay, here we go. Not to mention the fact that so far on this season, the Sharks score more goals as the game goes on. You know, they got, last I looked, I think it was 17 goals scored so far in their first, but then it was like 22 in the second, 23 in the third. So you're feeling good about that, but it didn't last long after Corrali would tie it 35 seconds later. Burns, I don't know what the hell you're doing, dude. But he would make up for it with a slap shot that would finally go in. His first point in 12 games, first goal. I mean, just Christ almighty. And then, of course, you get Ferraro going, hey, I can do Burns too. And Sillinger would take advantage, tie it up. Hill just not covering the sides, the top. I mean, he was just kind of like, yeah, I'm all about this kind of center spot of the net today.
Yeah, I mean, he was playing, you know, the Sharks went out and played hockey. Hill decided he wanted to play dodgeball. I mean, you know, we all saw, we all watched.
And then failing to poke check on the Roslovic, and then Boquist scores again. It's the one thing you did see, though, Bugner flipping Hertl and Couture on those lines, which I thought was rather interesting. And then shortly after that, Hertl would score, and it was just kind of like, oh, so he can score. He just needs better, wings.
See, and here's the thing, like, obviously we've talked about it. I think every show we've done this season, we've talked about it. Couture, Timo Meier, Jonathan Dahlen. I mean, they're the top line. They're the best line on the team right now. You don't need AJ or I to tell you that. But I like seeing, and even if it's just temporary, I like seeing Gregor going up with Couture and Dahlen, not just because I'm a Noah Gregor mark. I think we've established that. But because Gregor, he's probably the fastest player on this team that actually has some offensive skill to his name. And I feel like he gives that line a little bit more jam. You know what I mean?
Well, and the guy, I forget who, I think you were talking about Balsers a few shows ago when you said once he gets that one, and I feel like that's how I've felt about Gregor over this last week, where it's like if he's not leading the team in shots on goal in a game, he's generally second, like Chief.
He's right there, yeah.
Oh, man, it's like if he finds that scoring touch, woo, watch out.
And that's the thing, to your point, you look go over the past week, 4 shots on goal. We're talking about Noah Gregor here. 4 shots on goal against the Devils, 3 against the Islanders, against the Rangers, 4 again. And then tonight, if you're listening live against the Blue Jackets, he had 5.
Yeah.
So dude's
getting looks.
And he's clearly taking advice from Timo Meier, too.
I was going to say, he might want to borrow Timo's stick because that's on fire right now.
And that's what I'm saying. And it's like, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Jam Job Bob is always lurking. But I think for right now, I mean, I'm like, and I just don't see a way that Noah Gregor get sent back to the Barracuda. Like, I have a Noah Gregor Barracuda jersey in my closet. I'm getting ready to rip the name bar off and put it on a Sharks jersey. Like
nice.
he's just played well. And I know, on this show we don't slander Rudolph Balcers, but I think Balcers has earned the demotion to the third line because, even if Gregor's not quite getting on the score sheet as much as he probably wants to, he's only got 1 goal, 2 assists, but he's playing with some jam. You know what I mean? He's giving those, whether he's with Hertl and Barabanov or whether he's with Couture and Dahlin, he brings speed to that line. He can get open and then get the puck to those guys. Keep him in the NHL. I don't care where you play him, as long as it's not on the fourth line. I don't care.
Well, and see, that's the thing is it's really got to be kind of a shot across the bow where it's like, oh, okay, you're scratching Balcers. If you're Labanc, you have to be thinking, now's my shot. And it's like, nope, you're still there.
I mean, yeah, you look at the numbers for Labanc, right? 6 points in 19 games. That's nowhere near. That's nowhere near $4.75 million worth of work by no stretch. But again, we talked about it 2 weeks ago. We talked about it last week. Again, Sharks, if you're listening, a little early on the segment here, but put him higher in the lineup. Play him with some guys who can get him the puck. I love Matt Nieto, love Jasper Weatherby, I love Andrew Cogliano, love what they bring to the table. They're not getting Kevin Labanc the puck, and you're forcing Kevin Labanc to go get the puck himself. Mm-hmm. And then when he gets it, who's he passing to?
Well, and maybe
Burns. Like,
well, maybe if you're going to turn on the line blender, maybe you think about throwing Labanc up there with Couture and Meier for a couple shifts just to see.
Why not? And here's the other thing too. I was thinking about this while I was watching the game. So everybody talks about how much of a disaster Labanc is in his own zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know they've already tried it and it didn't really work out, but I still think maybe we need to see it again. But why not put Labanc with a super defensively responsible Nick Bonino, who also happens to have his scoring touch back, it seems.
Would be nice.
And not Matt Nieto on the left wing. Maybe, I mean, I'm just saying, Balcers, Bonino, Labanc, I don't know. Maybe.
Could be interesting.
I'm just saying, Sharks, if you're listening.
The final storyline in the Columbus game, the Sharks coughed up the lead twice.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to playing defensive grind games, but even Bugner in the post game said something along the lines of like, that we were brain dead today. He did also, make a comment when it was brought up that the Sharks did not see a power play in this game. And he said he was kind of harping to the officials towards the end of the first. I mean, look, when you're out shooting a team like 28-9 in the first period and you don't get it seems like you'd probably, if you're getting that many shots off, the other team's going to start taking some liberties. He felt like there was some guys getting sticks under their arms or whatnot, and just no calls. Seems like they've just, I think that this is the 4th game now this season where they haven't gotten a single call.
That sounds right. But here's the other thing though, dude. Here's the other thing. Like, and you're correct. I mean, I think it would be nice to see a power play. Don't get me wrong. But here's the thing. You can't have the power play be how you win games. If you're not getting power plays, like, I'm easier said than done, but score 5-on-5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't say, oh, well, if you say, well, if we had a power play, this game might have gone different. It's like, well,
he did talk about it being
if your goalie made a
something.
Save, I mean, I don't know.
He
there's
talked
a lot
about
more
it being
it.
something that can change the momentum. So
sure.
I understand that, but it's there's going to be games where you don't. But it just there has been to quote Randy Hahn, there's been a couple times where things have been totally sus.
Yes.
So let's get into stock up, stock down this week. Stock up. A couple of the names are the same. Timo Meier last week,
yep.
two goals, 3 assists. This week, 3 goals, 2 assists. 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 out of 12, 15 points in 12 games. I mean, are you kidding me?
Can my question, and we've been asking this question every week we've done a show this season. I believe, what is this, week 7 of the regular season?
Somewhere there.
And
Or we're wrapping week 6.
Whatever. Point being is this the week where we can finally say, look, Timo Meier's not playing hot. He's not punching up. He's just good. Like, can we say that? Like, people are looking at COVID season 1, COVID season 2, and say, oh, you know, that Meier, he really sucks. It's like, well, what about the 3 years before that? Not bad, I would say. And looks like a beast this year. He's healthy. His primary line mate is healthy. The god-awful conditions that they had to start the season under last year are non-existent. Like, I don't think Meier is punching up. I don't think he's
He's becoming the power forward we expected.
Right, and as we've talked about too, obviously Timo Meier, he missed some games because of the COVID protocol, and so he's only on pace for 77 games this season. Should he not miss another game, 100 points in those 77 games if he stays at this pace. And now you're probably thinking, well, hey, Hockey Jerk, it's only game, 25 at 82. What do you think how do you think he's gonna keep this pace? Well, I mean, like I said, we're kind of at the point where he's not playing hot. He's just good. And, also something to think about, too, that kind of puts a bow on the Timo Meier present, if you will. He's played 20 games this year, been on the top line, the most minutes among forwards, plays physical, plays offensively, all that good stuff. 0 PIMs.
Hey, no. That, to me, is the most, standout stat of the whole thing.
As a guy who regularly takes the opportunity to run you over if he can, right? I mean,
Same.
he had 3 hits against the Islanders, and he had, no hits in any of the other games this week, but still, that's where he's always leading. Physical. He's not the fastest guy, but he's quick, if you can understand that. Like, he's not going to win you in a race, but he's where he needs to be when he needs to be there.
I mean, dude's had points in 9 of the last 12 games, and 2 of those the Sharks were shut out, so nobody had points in those.
That's what I'm saying. Might be good, as they say.
Right? 6 of his goals, 4 of them were game winners, or as we say here, Maduel.
Yeah.
Dude.
Shout out.
Hello. Erik Karlsson. Since returning from protocol, dude only has 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Well, hello. He did go pointless in 3 straight, but he's got points in 8 out of 12 games. That's good. I'm not going to say that's elite. It's good. And one of those wasn't, the game winner in overtime. Let's see Karlsson continue this stretch. Let's see it just get better. That's
well, and same thing with Erik Karlsson. He obviously, as we've talked about with Meier, missed some games as well. He's only on pace for 76 games this year. If he gets there, that's 56 points. Now you're going to look at what he's done historically and say, well, hey, a couple 60-point years, 70-point years. He had an 82-point season. What the hell? What gives? But with all the nonsense that people have said about Karlsson the last 3 years about, his thumb, his heel, his Achilles, his groin, whatever. Exactly. Like 56 points. Take the money out of it. 56 points in 76 games as a defenseman. Not bad.
not bad.
And you know what? That lawnmower is getting a lot of work, buddy.
Wait a minute. Hold on, dude. I think I got run over. I did.
Wow. It's the Erik Karlsson special right there.
Yeah, that's me. And Erik Karlsson ran me over. If you know, you know. Nick Bonino, after going 18 games, couldn't buy a goal. All of a sudden, 4 in his last 7. Love it.
All 4 of them are high value.
Thank you.
3 game tires and a game opener.
Nice. Adin Hill was very stock up until today's game. It's kind of.
That's okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And then, of course, Noah Gregor. We talked about it earlier, but we're both stock up on that guy. Stock down, Burns was top of the list for me. Okay, he might have moved a little further down after firing a slapper and finally putting one in tonight. But my point was like, God damn, son, you've gone 11 games, haven't gotten a single point. Šimik was scratched in 3 games and has more points than you. Like, come on. But he got one back, and hopefully that's something that will lead to bigger and better things and open the floodgates for the big man. Stock down, of course, was that Hertl line. I mean, we saw Balcers get scratched. Barabanov still had 3 assists this week, but Hertl, up until tonight, had, like the silver lining, if you really want to see it, is Hertl and Burns both scored tonight, and it had been forever. So,
right, and I like that you mentioned Barabanov as well, because you're right, and we called it out last week as well. That line, Hertl, Balcers, Barabanov, we need more from them. Hertl especially had been struggling. Balcers, God love you, but dude, behind the goalie is where you want it. And despite that, though, Barabanov, very solid. He especially I think. And I'll have to go back and look, but I think, he's assisting on a lot of, the 3 assists he's picked up this week. I believe, they were on goals by players that he's not normally on a line with. So he's kind of, no matter where he's out there, if it's a line blender situation, power play, penalty kill, overtime, whatever, he's still finding a way to, make some cheddar cheese there. And again, same thing as Timo Meier. He's only on pace for 77 games this year. But, he's on target to put up 42 points, which for a guy you took a chance on at $1 million, I'm all for it.
And we're able to get rid of Suomela in the process?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I will take that.
Yep.
And then finally, stock down. I mean, just the offense. They don't, 10 goals in 5 games, and 5 of those came versus the Devils. The Sharks have posted 2 shutouts this season, but they've been shut out 3 times. So, I mean, and yeah, you can say, well, hey, there was some offense tonight, and it's like, well, okay, fair point. But we need that defensive collapse that they had all bought into from the start of the training camp, but I guess kind of went out the window earlier today. Let's get into the stats real quick. The power play is falling drastically. It's like last I looked, I think it was right around 16, just about 17%. It went from 11th to 20th, now 22nd, 2 for 18 in their last 8 games. This week, they were 1 for 8 on the power play. To be fair, as I said earlier, the Bonino goal came just as it expired. So, okay, you can say 2 for 8. And 2 for 8, not bad. 25%, sure. Pretty decent if we can start to get there. And again, didn't draw a penalty versus Columbus, so it is what it is. The PK still pretty decent. Went from 1st to 3rd, now 4th. 87% this week, killed 4 of 5. Face-off percentage still 52.5, remaining 8th in the NHL. We talked about Hill and Reimer. The numbers are still pretty much the same, with the exception of course, Hill getting just jacked tonight. Blue line points. This is huge, man. 4 games this week. This is so weird. I don't know if I'm going to have to go back and check these numbers. In the 4 games that they played this week, I only have 5 goals, which is great. You get 3 from EK65, 1 from Middleton, so that pairing coming up with 4 goals, and the 5th one earlier coming from Burns. No assists from any defensive player in these last 4 games. Seems rather odd.
Yeah, that is kind of a weird number,
right? But the blue line points all in on the season. 12 goals, 37 assists. I mean, dude, that 49 points in 25 games. I mean, that's almost a 2-point per game clip coming from your defense. Last I looked, not too shabby.
Yeah, and actually, you were talking about, you briefly touched on Labanc a little bit, and there was a number we're talking numbers right now. There was a number that I saw that was quite interesting to me. So for those who aren't aware, the average shooting percentage in the NHL, basically the percentage of your shots that goes in, the average shooting percentage, right, for the last couple of years has been somewhere between 9 and 11%.
Mm-hmm.
So what's problematic for me, and don't forget, like, you know, I would say I'm a pretty solid fan of Kevin Labanc. What's problematic for me?
Signed jersey in the closet.
No, signed jersey sold on eBay.
Oh, sorry. Me too.
What's problematic for me, considering Labanc's got 3 goals in 19 games here, his shooting percentage is 9.7%, which means in terms of the percentage of his shots that are going in, he's average.
Yeah.
And so what that tells me, I mean, dude, take more shots. Like, you know, and you know, our buddy Ian Reid, you know, he'll be the first to tell you Labanc's always been a pass first guy, even going back to juniors, but he has a really good shot, and I feel like I would love to see it more.
It makes me feel like somebody needs to beat it into say, on this line, you are the shooter.
Right.
So we mentioned it earlier, Meier, EK throwing up game winners this week. Who's leading the Moduel?
So how do you want to break this down?
Did anything really change?
So here's your top 3: Timo, Meier, Tomas Hertl, Jonathan Dahlen. There's your top 3 in terms of the module score.
All right.
If we're talking high value goals here, Timo Meier, Logan Couture with 5 of his 7 being high value. And then you've got Jonathan Dahlen and, how are you doing, Nick Bonino, tied for 3rd in high value goals. As I mentioned, Bonino's got 4 goals on the year. All 4 of them are high value goals, 3 game tying goals and a game opener goal. Obviously, you love to see that. Mm-hmm. You know, I was getting ready to make the point earlier, you know, when AJ and I were doing some prep, and then Erik Karlsson scored, of course. But if we're looking at the module after the first period, you're finally getting to see how the module can maybe change your thinking a little bit on the situation. Obviously, Nick Bonino, 4 goals. Erik Karlsson at the time only had 5 goals. Obviously, now he has 6. Despite having 1 more goal at the time, Bonino's module score was higher. Mm-hmm. So, you know, what does that mean? Who's to say? We're still figuring that out. But that's kind of the first indication we've had this season of, you know, I guess getting a different picture than what's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm. No.
So
love it. So let's move on here. We, you know, as we're talking about some of these numbers and whatnot, Dom Luszczyszyn from The Athletic put together his latest top 10 list for each NHL award now that we're a quarter way into the season. The Sharks that made his lists, you got Timo Meier coming in 5th for the Hart.
Hell yeah.
Do you think he has a hope in hell?
To win, no. But I mean, think somebody,
if you play in the same division as Draisaitl and McDavid.
Here's the thing, though. I think somebody, because how they do it for these kinds of trophies is they, you know, I think there's 200 media members who vote on these kinds of things, and they say, okay, basically what it is they say, okay, give us your top 5, and they actually score it very similarly to how we score the module, you know. But it's basically give me your top 5, and then that's how they rank it all. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Timo Meier picked up a couple 4th and 5th place votes. Not at all. Will he win? Can't say. Probably not.
All right. Well,
if he did, somebody owes me an apology.
We're going to spend the rest of this show, ladies and gentlemen, finding an apology for Hockey Jerk.
Yep.
Erik Karlsson, 5th on the list for the Norris.
Mm-hmm.
Dahlen,
Love it.
8th. Middleton, 9th for the Calder. Interesting.
Love that.
And then Reimer, 8th for the Vezina. So you have to enjoy that. So, you know.
Which I mean, with the Vezina thing, the only reason why I want to mention that is because that I feel like we're still, you know, and again, who am I to say
we're
anything?
not there yet.
But I feel like there's still like a bias when it comes to like the name recognition. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like people are going to like, you know, at the beginning of the season, everybody's saying, oh, Connor Hellebuck, John Gibson, Vasilevsky, Fleury, blah, 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 all these names, right? But, you know, James Reimer, you look the best goalie in the league right now in terms of wins, has 13 wins. James Reimer's got 8, which is pretty incredible. Among starting goalies, James Reimer is 5th in save percentage, and in terms of goals against average, again among starting goalies, James Reimer is 6th.
Pretty decent.
So obviously, Dom Lucian saying that James Reimer is in the Vezina conversation, the stats bear that out. But 8th?
If you say,
I don't know about 8th.
I don't know about 8th, but if anything, it says to me, Reimer needs to start more games. Get well soon, buddy.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they have. I don't know if the Sharks players, if they get Benny cards or whatever, but run yours up with Dayquil and get in there,
dude. It really makes me wonder how this game would have bared out earlier against Columbus had Reimer been good. Because boy, there was we said it earlier, there were 2 or 3 that Hill had to have been going, what the hell am I thinking?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have to love seeing Meier in that conversation. Again, it feels like the guy we've been waiting for. Leads the Sharks in nearly every stat. Nearly half of his goals are game winners. When it comes to the EK65 stuff, for all you snarky EK65 defenders that love to scream, "Where are the haters now?" I have a couple things to say. One, can you honestly at least admit that the previous 2 seasons EK65 was bad? Like if you it's the whole idea of like, if you want to sit there and say, "Oh, where the hater," dude, you have to acknowledge reality.
Yeah.
His first season in San Jose, he had a great 6 weeks then too, and then what happened? He went off a cliff. So my point is, don't be too quick to toss out the "I told you so's." Like, let's see what this bears out. Let me remind you, there was a hot minute where Radil looked really good. We all know what happened.
I think the only difference here is that, that 6-week stretch in his first year that you're mentioning, that the Sharks were a wagon at that time. Even if Karlsson was pointless in that 6-week stretch, like the Sharks are still winning more than they lose. Versus this time around, like he has been the difference in the game almost every night the Sharks have won.
Yeah, and I fully agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally, acknowledge that 100%. But, there's guys like Nolan Schaefer who, remember Nolan Schaefer? That first game, what was it, against like the Hurricanes, and he just, took him for a lap, and then you never heard from the guy again? I mean, let's not bring up David Ayres is what I'm saying. Let's just, everybody calm down. But being disappointed because a player doesn't meet the expectation set by his contract, the previous numbers that he posted, what the front office and the coaches were telling you, being disappointed because that player doesn't hit those numbers, it doesn't make somebody a hater. It just makes them disappointed. Learn the difference, please.
Well, and not only that, but you've said yourself, you've not been the biggest fan of Erik Karlsson, and I would even make the argument that you're not really the biggest fan of Erik Karlsson to this day. He just so happens to be playing well, but I think it's also worth saying, you're not a fan of Erik Karlsson. That doesn't mean that you want him playing poorly. Like, you want him to be successful. I know you do.
I want him to be successful, and I'm not the biggest fan of Erik Karlsson. Why? Because, how dare I expect the highest paid defenseman to play like the highest paid defenseman?
Yeah, for sure. And
how dare I?
And you can go back, you can look at the tape from last year. I've always been the one to talk you off the ledge in terms of the Erik Karlsson conversation. But even there were multiple times last year where I was like, no, like AJ's right. Like this is how it is. And, there's no, the butter doesn't go on both sides.
But that's the whole thing. It's like, why am I not a fan? You're disappointing me. Okay, stop disappointing me, and you're going to turn me into a fan. Brendan Dillon did it. Yeah, I believe you can too, Erik.
If I say, hey, I've got this really good beer, and I slide you a Bud Light, you're going to be like, what the hell? This isn't good beer.
That's all I'm saying. So let's move on. All right, here we go.
Yeah, does anybody want to have a cigarette before we do this?
Yeah, light him if you got him, people. Here it comes. Takeaways from the return of Evander Kane, his first practice, his media session. First off, dude skated out, yellow jersey paired with topping, and what's Brinson's brother's name? Steen. So he's out there with Kyle and Steen. Definitely not the top two CUDA guys. In fact, neither of them are with the CUDA anymore.
They both got sent to Orlando.
Exactly,
which is epic.
Is that another word for Siberia? No. But look, as for the video, let's first start with the title of it that NBCS Bay Area put on it. Kane opens up about vaccine status, issues with teammates. Okay, here, let's just show what he talked about when he asked about the fake Vax card.
Yeah, you'll have to refer to the NHL statement that they put out via the suspension. I served my time, did my 21 games, and now I'm back.
That didn't sound like anybody opened up about anything. It was like, just... look at the memo. I served my time. You probably could have chosen your words a little bit better, by the way. But I don't understand how that's opening up about it. And I will say I'm a little pissed off that not a single person in that media session had the stones or the wherewithal to ask, where did you get the card? Right?
Yeah, I just think it was a
total sidestep.
Yeah, I honestly think it was a coward response.
Dude, it so was. I was expecting him to say, I'm sorry, can you direct that towards my attorney over here?
Yeah, total coward response. I mean, as you said, totally sidestepped the question like a moving train. Like all he said was, I served my time. Like, dude, you are trying to, like, you want to play in the NHL. You want to make money. You got to play ball here. You can't act coy and like some, just moody like child, because I had to do this thing. You know what I mean? Like he acts like he got suspended because he accidentally high-sticked somebody. Like, no, dude. Like you committed a crime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and the fact
people
that,
have used these to try to like get on planes are serving time.
And that's the thing, and especially too, like,
and not
like,
in the way that you serve time.
Right. And you're going to turn in a fake vaccination card when these things are being scrutinized. You're putting yourself at risk. You're putting your family at risk. Your teammates at risk.
Yes.
Like you're showing that you don't care. And like,
oh no,
honestly,
you care all about you.
Yeah. And honestly, what I gleaned from that video is that, he thinks, oh, well, yeah, like there's this little drama going on right now, but I was the best player on the team last year, so I'll be back.
Oh,
and it's like,
dude, there was a lot of that.
Keep dreaming. Like, keep dreaming. And, I have more to say, but obviously you'll bring it up in the next point. So.
Yeah, well, but I want to get to Marty's comment really quick because I love it. I understand they wear different colors for no contact jerseys. Do they have a specific color for locker room cancer?
Yeah,
nice
it should be
nice designation. It should be paisley.
No, it should be it should be transparent, as in you don't see it on the ice.
Nice. When asked about being in contact with any of the Sharks, hey, have you talked to the guys? And here we go.
No, I've been doing my own thing, getting myself prepared, and handling my business, as I'm sure they have.
Love it. No, been doing my own thing. Sure they have. And I'm just like, oh, I mean, excuse me. I mean, say whatever happened over the summer regarding these guys wanting him gone, he's saying that, that was all news to me. Well, my question is, if there were no issues and this is all being overblown by the media, which he's mentioned multiple times, why is it that the Sharks have all admitted, no, we haven't spoken with him. We don't know where the coach is going. I don't know where he is. Like,
and that's,
I mean, is that not a huge red flag to be like, Yeah, maybe I need to start thinking about life after San Jose.
And that's the thing. Like, if people, like, obviously nobody on this podcast or in this Google chat is in the locker room. Nobody knows for absolute certainty. But if you're reading the tea leaves, hey, like, people say that being a teammate is one of the closest bonds you can have with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If your teammates don't know where you are, haven't spoken to you, haven't really shown any concern for what you're up to,
all the while telling everybody who speaks with them from the media how great the locker room is.
And that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, how much did you hear about, not even if the locker room was good or bad, but just the locker room in general last year? Never. Right?
Right.
And it's just like, it's either, I'm trying to figure out how to look at this press conference, which I don't even know if I could call this a press conference. This feels like a rally and
propaganda display.
Yeah, it's like this is as much of a freaking circus operation as that ESPN interview was.
And speaking of which, okay, look, there was no apologies whatsoever in this. Now, granted, there's going to be there are a few EK9 defenders out there, and hey, do your thing. If you're down with him and that's how you feel, I'm not taking that away from you. But again, my whole thing is like, look, you didn't even apologize in this. And yeah, okay, you did when it all first came out, like when you got caught, like it was almost like you were required to. I felt like this was, there was no contrition. There was really no admission. It was like, oh, yeah, you refer to the NHL memo. There was no, I was wrong and deeply regret this mistake. I'm all for second chances, but that, those chances start with you owning your own shit. And in my opinion, Kane failed to do so. And look, either way, between the ESP interview and this CUDA presser, Kane is remarkably talented at playing the victim. That's what I've come away with it. And a couple times, I think it was during the ESPN one, he sits there and says, well, I'm an African-American player in a predominantly white sport. What does that have to do with anything? I don't care if you're an Asian player, an Irish player, a Canadian player. You put you submitted false information to try to job the system. What does that have to do with your ethnicity? I don't get that.
And that's the thing. And obviously,
he's trying to say that, oh, they're only calling me out because of my ethnicity, and it's like, no, they're calling you out because you purposely tried to deceive people.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that in the past he has been singled out for.
Oh, absolutely.
For his ethnicity, but that's not in this situation. That's not the case.
Yeah,
like like you said, you submitted a fake vaccination card. You alienated your teammates. You did all of these things, and it's like I said, the ESPN interview felt like a clown show. This CUDA press conference felt like a clown show. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like we're friends with any of the media people who were there. But
I thought you were saying you weren't going to pretend that me and you were friends. Go ahead.
No, but we like and appreciate what these media people do for covering the team. And I wish a couple of them would have pressed the issue a little bit.
Yes.
I also, I don't want to get into it too much. I already said my piece on Twitter about it, but the clip of Curtis Brown and Brody Brazil talking about the situation.
Oh, Jesus.
Coward move. And that's all I'm going to say. Let's move on.
Okay. Yeah, well, see, that's the whole thing is when I mentioned earlier about the EK9 supporters or whatever, I'm using that towards fans. It did seem like Curtis Brown kind of a supporter or whatever. It just seemed a little odd. For me, it was Kevin Weeks. Like, he did a thing, I don't know if it was on Overdrive or wherever, 2 or 3 times said, Evander, it was a poor judgment on his part. It was a misjudgment. No, misjudgment is when you pull into a parking spot and you bump the curb because you thought it was a little further than it actually was. That's a misjudgment. What Evander did was purposeful deception. This is not, I mean...
He willingly did it.
Yeah, this is like...
It was,
could you
what do they
imagine,
say? Premeditated.
Yeah, well, exactly. Could you imagine like some guy who's got a ridiculous, prenup, that if he gets caught cheating with another woman, he has to give the woman that he's married to everything or whatever, and the lawyer coming in going, no, this was just misjudgment.
Yeah, you tripped and fell, and your pants fell down, and you fell in her. No.
Yeah, no.
No, yeah, that's the thing. Evander Kane did not trip and fall and sign a fake vaccination card on his way down. No, he contacted somebody somewhere, probably paid them some money to whip it, or who knows? You know what? Maybe he freaking printed it out on his home computer. Like, who knows?
He's like, I know how to use Word.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this was not a misunderstanding. Like, this was not an accident. But even then, but here's the other thing too. And you know what? Shout out to the community college level law class. I got a D in here. Being ignorant of the law does not excuse you from breaking it.
Thank you. Let me see. Quick note here from Tom Dolan. Stop. We need him rehabilitated so we can move him for talent. We need to shorten up the bad times so we can get back to being serious contenders. I don't need sorry. If you do, that's on you. I mean, yeah, I would like him rehabilitated, but if this was a one-off, a two-off,
people are acting like this is the first time he's ever screwed up.
Yeah,
this is like the 9,000th time it's happened.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm dying to give you the benefit of the doubt, but between your actions, or from the way you've danced around things, avoided things, there's certain media members that you won't even take their questions. I mean, and then not to take away from all the things that your estranged wife has said, and not that I'm believing those, not that I'm saying that they're false, not that I'm saying that they're true. I'm just saying that there is an awful lot of smoke here for there not to be at least the hint of a little tiny burning bush of some sort. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, look, the silver lining of all this, hey, the Barracuda should get a spike in ticket sales this weekend. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, if
you would expect.
Here's the thing. And now I know you're going to be inclined to say, well, I'm not giving, I want to. And this is just,
in order to show my support, I'm not going to buy CUDA tickets this weekend or something?
Right. That's one argument. But I would say, but honestly, and again, this is not telling anybody what to do. I'm just saying this is what I would do. And if you agree with me, awesome. I would go to the game, and I would let the Sharks know how you feel about Evander Kane being back. Now, don't
whether
be mean,
it's good or bad.
Don't be mean. And don't cause any problems.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise your right as a paying sports fan to boo.
Or cheer if that's your jam.
Yeah, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And here's the thing. We both love the Sharks, big fans. We obviously cover the Sharks. I use cover very loosely because nobody listens to us.
The Sharks do.
Apparently, Sharks, if you're listening.
Well, I was going to say clearly the coaching staff.
But it really bothers me that the Sharks, with this whole Evander Kane situation, they're letting other people tell the story for them.
Yes.
Like if there was no Twitter, if there were no insiders, no email blasts, no nothing, nobody would know that Kane was on waivers. Nobody would know that he's been assigned to the Barracuda. Like, they would have showed up to practice and been like, "Huh, weird. There's a Barracuda banner behind the podium. What's going on?" Like, I understand, like, whatever. The Sharks don't want to talk about it, but like, they have to. It's a weak move to not mention him.
And let me mention one more thing before we move on here. And this is it's not a slam on Kane by any stretch. It's actually kind of a slam on the, I don't know, media department or whatever for the Sharks. But there was a big push this season that the Sharks had decided they were going to move away from having their games broadcast on 98.5. And it was the whole thrust of getting everybody to download the Sharks app and listen to games online, whether it was a Barracuda, whether it was Ted Ramey's wrap-ups, whether it was Sharks games, whatever, that you can find all this incredible content on the Sharks app. How did you not live stream this press conference?
Because
That's
it's like Kevin Kerr's put it perfectly. The Sharks have been pretending like Evander Kane doesn't exist for the last 6 weeks. Meanwhile, they're putting him on waivers. They're letting him, they're sending him to their minor league team. But the fact that, like, you've seen media availabilities for the Barracuda, at best, it's the Zoom, like, best case scenario, it's the Zoom conferences that we've seen because of COVID. Worst case scenario, it's somebody with their iPhone in front of the wall outside the tank. The fact that Kane, like, the Sharks said, yeah, we'll park some time for you to have an official press conference. Give me a break.
Yeah. And if memory serves, it was like a solid 11 minutes. But anyway, I digress, especially before Chris goes scorched earth in the chat. Coming up this week, when we talk again, we're going to be catching you up on games against Calgary, Minnesota, and Dallas. Of note, the Sharks play 9 of their next 10 at home. And the lone game away is in Anaheim. Pretty quick jaunt, just letting you know. So the good news is, hey, the Sharks are not going to leave their time zone for 3 straight weeks till the end of 2021. And 6 of these 10 games are against divisional opponents. If you listened to After Dark earlier, you heard Ian talking about he can't wait to get into the division. Neither can I, because these are 4-point games. These are really where if you're going to make that push for the playoffs, these are the games to do it. And you get to play Arizona. Who doesn't want to play them every day? You get to play Seattle. You get to play Vancouver twice. And we'll get to Bruce Boudreau here momentarily. But that's the good news. Now, the bad news is during these 10 games, you're going to play the 3 top teams in the Pacific Division. You're going to play the top team in the Central. And you're going to play a streaking Dallas team who's currently on a 6-game win streak, and they're led by your former captain. So, glass half full, glass half empty is that essentially by the end of 2021, the Sharks could really be behind the 8 ball, or they could put themselves in great position for the next year. Or if they continue at the pace that they're at, they're going to play 500. They're going to go 5-5, and we get what we get. You know what I mean?
As my fiance would say, as long as they have fun, it doesn't matter.
There you go. So the first 3, of course, Calgary. This is going to be the second time the Sharks have faced them this season. The previous one was November 9th in Alberta. The Sharks won 4-1. This will be their second divisional game of the entire season, if you can believe that. And I can, because LA has only played their 4th one earlier today. So, yeah, it's been pretty small, but they are the Pacific Division leader currently. Next game will be Minnesota, who is at the top of their division in the Central, the most points in the Western Conference. However, the Sharks did beat them, also by a score of 4-1, on November 16th in the Twin Cities. And then, of course, that third one, Pavelski leading the Stars in points, will drag the Dallas Stars into the tank. Should be 2 noted things here. First off, that is military night for those of you who are into that. Another thing is, this is your opportunity to make an entire day of hockey in San Jose, because Evander Kane and the San Jose Barracuda will be playing at 1 o'clock that day. So,
there you go.
Just saying. Let's take it, now that that's all wrapped up, let's have a hint of fun, a scotch of fun or something. Let's go around the NHL. So, look, due to the COVID breakout, or what Jerk lovingly refers to as the Rona, the NHL sent out a memo, and they were like, yeah, stop. They were like, yeah, don't meet, don't hang, none of, like, Christmas parties, no, stop, don't do it. So all club organized parties, all autograph sessions, public speaking, charity events, everything the kibosh has put on. Now, that said, we have seen players post photos of get-togethers at their home for the holidays with their teammates and the wives, and I'm going to bet that continues. What I'm also going to bet on is that it doesn't get posted on social media.
Yeah, probably.
That said, are we about one more outbreak from canceling the Olympics, or not going for the NHL?
I don't know about that because, yes, obviously what the Sharks and the Senators and the Islanders have all had to deal with has not. I mean, it's not great. In an ideal situation, nobody would get COVID this year, but, and I hate to even be this guy, right? But so far, all of the outbreaks that have been seen, like the storm's been weathered.
I hope so.
And so you just hope, right? That's really all you can do is just hope.
Yeah. That being, do you give a shit if the NHL goes to the Olympics? Do you care one way or the other?
When this came up, when they announced they weren't going in 2018, I didn't really care at the time because I just didn't. But now that I think about it, I think it would be cool. I just think it would be cool to see kind of because especially with USA and Canada, from probably 2006 to maybe 2014, it was the same players every time. And then you had a couple different guys who would come through. I'm really excited to see like a new crop of guys for Canada and for the USA and for Russia as well. Like I think Russia or Olympic athletes from Russia or the artist formerly known as Russia, whatever they're going by, like I'd love to see what that team looks like.
Here's my take. I don't really care either way.
Sure.
Honestly. My thing is, does it have to be played in Canada? Like, can you just like have best on best, but just have the games take place in the U.S.? You know?
Are you talking about for the Olympics or for the World Juniors?
No, for the Olympics.
Because the Olympics are in China.
Yeah, exactly. But okay, fine. Have all the other events there.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But like, just have the same rosters, but just have them play in a place that I don't know where the virus originated from, maybe?
Yeah.
The area that the virus is named after? Maybe we don't do that. I don't know. So, look, remains to be seen. I hope there's not another outbreak, of course, but one has to think that we're going to reach the point of no return at some point, and I feel like if any more games get canceled, that might be about it.
That point of no return is January the 10th. Basically, January 10th is when we'll know if the NHL is going or not.
All righty. Jack Eichel, the good news. He is back on the ice after what appears to be successful neck surgery. The bad news, the next time the Sharks see Vegas, or I should say the first time, is not until March 1st when Jack Eichel may be on the roster and on the ice in the game. So,
well, you know what? Jack Eichel may be on the ice. I will be in the audience.
Hey now. What? Let me ask you a question. Did the Nashville Predators release the worst Stadium Series jersey ever?
Definitely up there.
See, for me, I feel
that
like
is not choice.
I feel like the answer is yes.
It is not choice. I got really excited because it was blue.
Yes.
And then,
yes.
And then they had to kick us down. So
no, just horrible. And the thing that really gets me, which I mentioned on social media, was like, could that C have been more of an afterthought? Like, there's no way in hell it goes over that far. Like, somebody misplaced this. Somebody fucked up, is what I'm saying. I have never seen a C, a captain's patch, like stitched on the same seam as like the sleeve. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of messing with me. Like, I think if you take that off, maybe it's I don't know. But yeah, I'm just, this doesn't do it for me. Not to mention the fact that why does it seem like every letter is its own size and font?
That's the style.
I just feel like a fan contest or something. Like that's, somebody won this competition. On the other hand, dig the bolts. The more I see this, the more I'm digging it. The only thing that I would look at this and go, you could have done this, is you take that lightning bolt blue on the bottom, and it's kind of at the bottom of the arms, add that to the bottom of the back Make it so it goes all the way around, and I think you got a winner.
I agree.
I think that's bordering on potential future third jersey for the Bolts. But I digress. We should probably get going. So yesterday, the Ottawa Senators announced that Bet99 Sportsbook would be their home helmet sponsor for the season. You remember that thing that was only supposed to last for last season? But I do just get a kick out of the whole thing with the gambling and whatnot, and and how that was never supposed to be a thing, and now they're sponsoring. But anyway, I just get a kick out of all of those things. So how's our dark horses going? Look, Jerk is not happy. His team is still in the basement. The Canucks, last I looked, 8-15-2 for 18 points. Through the first 25 games of the season, it was reported earlier today, they have the worst penalty kill in NHL history.
Epic.
And then, of course, you have Elliot Friedman tweeting just a couple short hours ago that Bruce Boudreau would be the next coach of the Vancouver Canucks because, as I've come to find, the more things change in the Pacific, the more they stay the same. Jerk, I'm going to let you just go off on this while I take a hot second.
Yeah, so, as I've said before, I'll say it again. I still, in terms of the forwards, in terms of the goaltending, I still like the way this team is constructed. But obviously those guys I mentioned are not playing the way that they should be. The defense is also a tire fire. As AJ mentioned, Vancouver, they fired Travis Green, which I like Travis Green as a coach. I hope that he's on the short list for another team coming soon here. And they're going to bring back Bruce Boudreau, former coach of Capitals, Ducks, Wild, NHL Network analyst. Now he's in Vancouver. They also, fired the general manager, fired the assistant general manager. So, the talk the last couple of weeks, whether 32 Thoughts, whether you listen to Overdrive, the talk has been, the Canucks don't want to fire the GM and the coach because they don't want to have to pay the guys they fired while also paying the replacements, and clearly they have given up on that mindset. So yeah, Canucks are in the dumpster right now. But I don't know. I don't think it's a sign of things to come. I just think it's a bad year for them.
Remember 10 years ago when they went to the Stanley Cup? Good times. I don't know. Is it so what? 3 years from now, we're going to see Ron Wilson go to the Seattle Kraken? No. Bueller. Okay. Look, my LA Kings. And when I say that, that's for this exercise. Currently sixth. Now with a record of, is it 10-9-4 with 24 points?
Correct.
Just got Doughty back. Just won a game over the who? Edmonton Oilers? Are you kidding me? Now, that being said, Darnell Nurse, who had just returned, did get a shorty.
There you go.
But are you kidding? The Kings who just got Doughty back, but they beat the Edmonton Oilers? Are you serious? I have hope. I don't feel like Jerk has any hope when it comes to the Canucks, but I have hope. And it also should be noted that I think with about 8 minutes left in this game, it was 2-1, and then 3-1, and then 4-1. And then, the Kings poured it on there towards the end. So, any hoodles. Tampa Bay. I just talked about how beautiful your jerseys are. Why did you have to screw me so hard today by treating Martin Jones the way you did? You got Katahat out 5-0. What's the meme? Stop already, they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's you really didn't have to go and beat up on Martin Jones like you did. And so I believe where are we at? I think Ian said 917 save percentage.
No, I believe it was 915 or higher that it
No. What his current number is now.
Current number he's at now.
After getting steamrolled earlier tonight.
Currently, Martin Jones is at 917.
Oh.
Still time though.
Still time. But tonight was in relief. So he's still 3-win, 3-loss, 1 overtime. But yikes. And I don't, like I said, this is a relief start. So this doesn't count for the 20, Ian said you got to start 20 or more.
Yes. Games. And if you look at any stats website, it'll say games played, games started.
There you go. Now, in a weird scheduling quirk, the Flyers actually play 5 games over the next 7 days. So I expect Jones to get looks at least twice this week. Could be interesting depending on how it goes. Either way, right? And to top it all off, and what really could put the cherry on the sundae is if he has those good games, the Flyers pay a visit to SAP Center to finish out 2022. You have to think Jones is going to get the start in that game since the Flyers play in Seattle the night before. So, anyway, all I'm saying is the Lightning have proved that they're clearly Team Ian on this. Joe Pavelski, like I said, coming in with the Dallas Stars. That washed-up has-been now leads the Stars in points, is winning 54% of his face-offs, which is better than Logan Couture and Tomas Hertl. And their current 6-game winning streak, the former Sharks captain just happens to have 3 goals, 7 assists, one of those goals a game winner. So, yeah.
There you go. Might be good.
Might be 37-year-old good.
It's hard. It's still hard to say though.
We may need more information. Okay.
Ooh, Barracuda.
So, speaking of shit shows, the Barracuda finished up just not that long ago. Another pair versus the Abbotsford Canucks. It seems like 7 of the last 8 games the Barracuda have played have been versus Abbotsford. Either way, they broke a 4-game losing skid the other night with a third-period rally after being up 3-1 in the first to going down 4-3 after the second. Talk about a That's So Sharks game. Joachim Blichfeld scored twice in the third, finished with a 3-point night, while the other Cuda goals came from Halbgewachs, who seems like he's scoring in every game lately, Scott Reedy, Jake McGrew, and Evan Weinger. Nick Merkley and Jacob Magna both had 2 assists in this one, and Melnichuk saved 11 of 15, which of course saw Sawchenko come in to save 10 of 10. But tonight was a different story. A 5-2 loss to Abbotsford. The only goals coming from Chmielewski and Ryan Merkley. As of now, your leaders, Reedy with 9 goals. Assists coming from Ryan Merkley with 9. Halbgewachs should be leading now with 14. And last I looked, Sawchenko's at a 902. Melnichuk's at a pedestrian 857. We hope that gets better. The coming week, the Cuda will play in Stockton against the Heat. I believe that's on Tuesday. But they have yet... Jesus Christ, we're playing Abbotsford again? So I believe it's Abbotsford this weekend. I think a Saturday, Sunday deal or whatever. But like I said, December 11th, that will be Kane's, at least it's slated on paper, to be Kane's first AHL game ever for those of you who work at NBCS. So will the Cuda see a spike in ticket sales? It happens all the time in the MLB when a guy goes down, goes on the IR, needs a few starts before they bring him back up. So there's been times where you've seen a big name from the San Francisco Giants start in San Jose, and all of a sudden you can't get a ticket to the game. So see what happens there. For the prospects, the top 5 remains the same. And for the most part, a couple guys remain on fire. Brandon Coe, 46 points in 24 games. I mean, almost 2 points per game. Are you kidding me? Tristan Robbins, 31 points, 23 games. Daniil Gushkin, 24 points in 19. Bordeleau, 18 points in 18. And Max McHugh right now, 16 points in 22 games. And everybody wants to know what's going on with Eklund. It's not been great. Hasn't posted points in the last couple of games. Last I looked, 3 assists and 7. Has that changed at all?
Nope.
Yikes. So that does kind of suck. But as I was mentioning just a second ago, not exactly the tweet of the week, but at least something I'm going to call out this week. I'm begging you, NBCSN, do us a solid. Stop spreading misinformation. You know, byline on this is Dalton Johnson, but there are others that are guilty. But in your first sentence here, or I'm sorry, not your first sentence, your second sentence said, on Tuesday, Evander was a minor leaguer again. NBCS, you can't be something again if you were never it to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not trying to be a dick to the people, to some of the writers at NBCS Bay Area. But there's just been so many times they have spread misinformation that they've put years. They've gotten, you know, they said something happened in 97 when it happened in 99. They called Tomas Hertl the Sharks captain twice in a week. They received so much backlash on the first one of those that they ended up deleting the tweet because of that. And then, like I said, 2 days later, posted a very similar article. And then my all-time favorite was they did a story about the shark head that the players skate out of, right? They said it had only been moved 3 times in history. They said for the 97 All-Star game, the 2019 All-Star game, and then they said, and for, if memory serves, they initially said an All-Star game in 2015 until everybody came out and said, what the hell are you talking about? Do you mean the Stadium Series game? And so they went in and changed it not to 2015 Stadium Series game that, oh, by the way, had the most attendance in California hockey history. They changed it to 97 All-Star game, 2019 All-Star game, and a game between the Sharks and the LA Kings. They didn't even mention Levi Stadium or the fact that it was a Stadium Series game. So it's just, stop. Just let Shang do it all, okay? Throw some money at Shang, let him do it all, or at least copy edit. I beg of you. Again, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I'm just tired of reading misinformation that if you just take 5 seconds and Google, just, come on. Come on. Am I wrong, jerk? Is it too much? Am I harping too much? I feel like I might be. I don't
think they're intentionally misleading people. I think that
they're
they just
intentionally not researching.
They just don't do their due diligence,
or just don't care.
Right.
All right, you can. I feel I've stepped in it again.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, I feel as though I've stepped in it again. You can follow him at hockey_jerk. You can follow me at AJ_strong. If you have any questions or topics you would like to hear us discuss, you can send them along to at TealTownUSA on Twitter. Don't forget to join our Discord channel where the chat never stops. You can check the show notes for the link. And remember to leave your take in the comments section of this YouTube video if you are watching on that platform. Famous last words, Jerkman, as we get into basically 10 straight home games with a short little diversion to Anaheim.
I'll keep it short and sweet.
For once.
Re-sign Barracuda.
All right, then.
Because, as we talked about, his line has struggled, yet he's still hanging in there.
All right,
I think it's a guy you got to keep around.
Famous last words from me. I dare you to scratch Gregor.
That too.
No, I get famous last words for me. I guess is probably be James Reimer. Get well soon. Very.
Also appropriate.
Very, very soon. Remember to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow us on social media. And if you listen to the podcast on something like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, whatever, help us out. Subscribe to our content on that platform. Leave us a review, maybe 5 stars. And you can find links to our social media, podcast apps, and more in the description below. Find everything on tealtownusa.com. And remember, if you'd like to support the show, you always can do so by throwing something in our tip jar on Venmo at tealtownusa. So, remember to check out After Dark after every single Sharks game that occurs. And that's it for us. Oh, boy. Do we need to see it one more time? I feel like we do. That's how I felt today. Just absolutely run over by Erik Karlsson's lawnmower. Thanks for watching and listening. We will catch you all next week for episode 144. Good night, everybody.